In the heart of a bustling metropolis where cultures collided and coexisted, dreams were painted in every shade imaginable. The city streets throbbed with music, hope, and ambition. Street artists painted murals of unity, and poets recited verses of freedom on corners where lights flickered under the sky. In this world of vibrant motion, a love story quietly began between two souls from vastly different worlds. Ethan, a white man raised in a conservative family, was molded by expectations. Marry within, stay within, live within. Structure, image, status. These were the threads of his life's fabric. But his heart was restless, curious for something real. Maya, a black woman with deep eyes and a voice like wind in the trees, was a force of life. Her laughter was loud and free. Her presence challenged silence. Her ancestors had passed on strength, and she wore it like perfume. Their meeting was accidental, a spilled coffee at a downtown bookstore. He apologized. She smiled. A conversation sparked, and by the time they left, the sun had dipped, but their connection had only just begun. Weeks turned to months. Their lives, so different in rhythm, began to blend like colors on a canvas. They strolled hand in hand through art-filled streets, shared food from opposite worlds, danced on rooftops under fairy lights, and whispered dreams to each other in the dark. To Maya, Ethan was soft-spoken, yet bold enough to ask difficult questions. To Ethan, Maya was unshakable, the kind of woman who didn't shrink when stared at. They talked about the future, a home filled with music, mixed heritage, and midnight dancing with their future children. Ethan began to see the world through new lenses, Maya's stories of struggle, her mother's sacrifices, her community's quiet strength. He loved it. He loved her. But the world beyond them started whispering. "You're marrying her?" His cousin sneered at a family brunch. "Think of your reputation," his mother whispered, gripping his hand too tightly. "It's not about race, but you know how these things go," said his best friend over a drink. Ethan laughed it off, at first, but whispers are tricky things. They crawl into your head when you're alone. They don't shout. They suggest. They poison softly. Ethan tried to shield Maya from it, but she knew, of course she knew. She had felt these things before, the looks, the questions, the false politeness. But it was different now. It was coming from his world. Conversations between them changed. He started to hesitate. She began to wonder. One evening, Maya asked, "Do you still see our future?" He nodded quickly, too quickly, but she saw the pause before the nod, and that pause spoke louder than anything he said. Invitations had been sent, dresses chosen. The venue, a beautiful chapel at the city's edge, was already dressed in flowers. Maya poured her heart into her vows, believing in their story, their triumph over difference. Her bridesmaids sang as they prepared her. She was radiant. Ethan sat alone the night before, looking at his tuxedo hanging by the window, wondering why it suddenly looked like a costume. He loved Maya, he knew it, but his heart was tangled in knots he didn't tie, and untangling them felt impossible. The music began, guests filled the chapel, Ethan stood at the altar. Maya began her walk, glowing, regal, radiant in white. His breath caught. But as she came closer, he didn't see a bride. He saw the expectations behind him, the judgment beside him, the war inside him. He stepped back. Gasps filled the chapel. Maya's steps slowed, her eyes locked onto his, searching for an answer. None came. I can't, Ethan whispered, barely audible. Maya's bouquet fell. Not a word left her lips. She turned and walked out slowly, not broken, but changed. Maya disappeared from the city's buzz for a time. She moved to a smaller town by the sea where she taught poetry and painted sunsets. Her heart ached, but it didn't shrivel. It grew wiser. Ethan stayed. He tried to forget, but forgetting Maya was like trying to unsee color. His parents were pleased, his friends were relieved, but Ethan was not. Months later, Ethan visited an art gallery. On the wall hung a giant painting, a blurred couple beneath a starlit sky. One hand reaching out, the other hesitating. Below it read, "Love isn't just a feeling, it's a decision to fight for someone when the world tells you not to." Signed, Maya J. He stood there for a long time. Years later, their paths briefly crossed again, at a community panel on interracial relationships. She was the speaker. He was in the crowd. They spoke briefly after. No anger, no bitterness, just history. He asked, "Do you think love should always win?" She smiled sadly. Love deserves to, but not everyone is brave enough to let it. They parted with grace. She walked away, a vision in strength. He watched, his heart still aching for the masterpiece he had once been part of, and walked away from. This wasn't a story of villains and heroes. It was a story of fear, love, pressure, and what it means to choose someone even when it costs you. Some stories don't end in happily ever after, but they still teach us how to love better. Drop on the comments section what you think about the story, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and share for more interesting stories. Thank you.